I told my wife. Her new face freaks me out. Now she's demanding a divorce after revealing the real reason she got surgery. My wife had plastic surgery recently. We had discussed it and I was against it. It was not my decision and ultimately I had no say. She looks weird now. She had the fat sucked out of her face, lip fillers, a neck lift, other stuff I don't really get. She gives me uncanny valley vibes now. It freaks me out. She is fully healed now and she wants us to go back to normal. Like me initiating sex. I have done so, but not as much as I used to. And when I do, I try and make sure there is very little light. It's been a few months, and I kind of dread having to look at her. Obviously, she has noticed. She has been bugging me to tell her what's up. I've tried telling her I'm just tired from work, or that I'm run down. Really anything except for the truth. She broke down and asked me if I was having an affair. I said that I wasn't. She asked to look at my phone. I unlocked it for her and handed it over. I wasn't worried about her finding anything because there is nothing to find. She spent an hour looking through it and found nothing. She asked me to explain why I changed. I tried explaining that I just wasn't that interested right now. Nothing I said was good enough for her. She kept digging. I finally told the truth. I wasn't harsh or brutally honest. I just told her that her new face wasn't something I found attractive and that I was turned off. She asked if that's why I turn off all the lights now. I said yes. She started crying and said that she needed time alone. She went to stay with her sister. I have been called every name in the book since this happened. Her sister said, I'm a piece of shit for insulting my wife's looks. Her friends all think I'm the asshole. I tried not to say anything. I can't force myself to find her attractive. I still love her, but her face is just weird now. She looks like the blue alien from The Fifth Element. Update 1. So, it's been a few weeks since I last posted, and things have taken a turn I didn't see coming. After my wife went to stay with her sister, I thought she just needed some space to process what I said. I figured she'd come back once she cooled down, and maybe we could work through this. But instead of coming back home, she's been extending her stay at her sister's. I tried reaching out a few times, but our conversations were short and awkward. It's like we were walking on eggshells around each other, and it was really uncomfortable. I finally decided to go see her and talk face to face because this whole situation was eating me up inside. When I got there, her sister wouldn't even let me in the house. She basically told me to leave and that my wife wasn't ready to see me. I was stunned. It felt like they were ganging up on me, and I was being treated like the bad guy. I mean, I get that what I said was hurtful, but I never imagined it would lead to this level of hostility. A couple of days later, my wife finally agreed to meet up. We went to a coffee shop near her sister's place. When I saw her, I could tell she'd been crying a lot. Her eyes were puffy, and she looked exhausted. I was prepared to apologize again, even though I wasn't sure what good it would do. But before I could say anything, she hit me with something that completely blindsided me. Apparently, during her time away, she's been talking to a therapist. At first, it was about processing my comments and her feelings about the surgery. But then it turned into something deeper. She told me that through these sessions, she realized she had been unhappy with herself for a long time, way before the surgery. The surgery, in her mind, was a last-ditch effort to fix what she thought was wrong with her life. And my reaction, my repulsion, was just the final nail in the coffin. She said she had been ignoring all the signs that our marriage was already in trouble. According to her, this wasn't just about the surgery or me finding her unattractive. It was about her feeling unworthy, unloved, and insecure for years. She confessed that she had been battling these feelings silently, thinking that if she could just look perfect, everything would fall into place. But when that didn't happen, and I reacted the way I did, it all came crashing down. I didn't know what to say. I felt guilty and ashamed, but at the same time, I was confused. I had no idea she was feeling this way for so long. She never talked to me about any of this before. I started to wonder if maybe I had been a bad husband, if maybe I was the reason she felt so terrible about herself. I asked her if she still loved me, and she said she honestly didn't know anymore. She told me she needed more time to figure things out and that she was considering staying with her sister indefinitely. I went home that night, feeling completely lost. It's like my entire marriage has been put on hold, and I don't even know if there's a chance to fix it. I keep replaying everything in my head, trying to figure out where it all went wrong, but I keep coming back to the same thing, her surgery and my reaction to it. I'm starting to think that maybe this was just the catalyst for something that had been brewing for a long time. Update 2. I never thought things would escalate the way they have, but here we are. After the last update, I tried giving my wife the space she needed while also showing her that I was still here for her. I sent her a few texts, letting her know I was thinking about her and hoping we could work things out. She responded politely but kept her distance, which made me anxious. I kept wondering if I was losing her for good. About 2 weeks later, she finally reached out and said she wanted to meet up again, but this time at our house. I was relieved, thinking maybe she was ready to come back, or at least talk about what our next steps should be. But when she walked in, she had a serious expression on her face that made my stomach drop. We sat down, and she started by telling me that she had been doing a lot of soul-searching. She said that during her time away, she'd been focusing on herself and what she really wanted out of life. And then, she dropped the bombshell. She wanted a divorce. She said it wasn't just about the surgery or my reaction anymore. It was about her realizing that she didn't want to be in this marriage anymore. She felt like we had grown apart, and that there was no going back. I was floored. I asked her if there was anything we could do to work on our relationship, like counseling or taking a break, instead of just jumping to divorce. But she was adamant. She said she had made up her mind, and that this was what she needed to do for her own happiness. She said she was sorry for how things had turned out, but she didn't see a future for us anymore. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I tried to convince her to reconsider, to think about all the years we had together, but she was resolute. She said that she had been unhappy for so long, and that the surgery and my reaction were just symptoms of a much larger issue in our marriage. She told me she was already working on the paperwork and that she would be staying with her sister until everything was finalized. After she left, I was in shock. I couldn't believe this was happening. I spent the next few days in a daze, trying to wrap my head around the fact that my marriage was over. I kept thinking about all the signs I had missed, all the ways I had taken her for granted. I felt like I was living in some kind of nightmare, where everything I had known was falling apart. A few days later, I got a call from her sister. She said she wanted to talk to me in person, and I reluctantly agreed. When we met up, she didn't hold back. She basically told me that I had failed as a husband and that I had driven her sister to the point where she felt she had no choice but to leave. She said that while the surgery was the trigger, it was my neglect and lack of emotional support over the years that had really pushed her to this decision. She also mentioned something that hit me hard. My wife had started seeing someone else. She had met him a few months before the surgery, and while nothing physical had happened between them at that time, they had grown close emotionally. According to her sister, this guy had been a supportive friend while she was dealing with all her insecurities and doubts. And now, in the wake of our separation, their relationship had turned romantic. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I never saw this coming. I mean, I knew our marriage had problems, but I never thought she would actually leave me, let alone start seeing someone else. It was like everything was spiraling out of control and I was powerless to stop it. Update 3. I didn't think it could get worse, but it did. After finding out that my wife had started seeing someone else, I felt completely destroyed. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was just stuck in this loop of self-blame and regret. I kept thinking about all the things I could have done differently. How maybe if I had been more attentive or understanding, things wouldn't have ended up like this. But it was too late for any of that. I decided to reach out to a therapist myself because I couldn't keep going on like this. During our sessions, I started to realize that I had been avoiding a lot of issues in our marriage, just coasting along and assuming everything would be fine. I wasn't really present, and I didn't put in the effort to nurture our relationship. It was a hard pill to swallow, but I knew I had to face it if I ever wanted to move forward. A couple of weeks after I started therapy, my wife reached out to me. She said she wanted to talk one last time before the divorce was finalized. I wasn't sure if I was ready, but I agreed. We met up at a park we used to go to when we first started dating. It was surreal being there, knowing that this was likely the last time we'd ever talk as husband and wife. She started by telling me that she didn't want to hurt me any more than she already had, but she felt it was important to be honest. She said that while she had started seeing someone else, she realized that it wasn't fair to either of us to continue our marriage under these circumstances. She admitted that she had fallen out of love with me long before the surgery, and that she had been holding on to the idea of us rather than the reality. What really got me, though, was when she told me that she had always felt like she was living in my shadow. She said that I had always been so confident, so sure of myself, and that it made her feel insecure and inadequate. She had hoped that changing her appearance would make her feel better about herself, but when that didn't work, she realized that the problem was much deeper. She felt like she had lost herself in our marriage, trying to be the person she thought I wanted her to be, rather than who she really was. She also said something that broke my heart. She told me that she felt relieved when I said I wasn't attracted to her after the surgery. She said it confirmed what she had been feeling all along, that she wasn't good enough. She told me she didn't blame me for everything, but she needed to find herself again, and that meant letting go of our marriage. After she left, I sat there in the park for what felt like hours, just trying to process everything. I realized that this was the end, that there was no going back. I had lost her, and there was nothing I could do to change that. The divorce was finalized a few weeks later, and she moved in with the guy she had been seeing. I'm still trying to come to terms with everything. I'm working on myself, trying to be a better person, but it's hard. I miss her every day, and I keep thinking about what could have been, but I know I have to move on, no matter how much it hurts.